All right, we're going to, right before we go on to state administration, we are returning to the last 3 pages under employment development. So Assemblywoman Melendez can add her vote. Page 14, employment development, paid family leave outreach.
That's 3 no's for me.
Okay, 2-1. Page 15 is 2-1. And page 16 is 2-1. Thank you. State administration. This is the Regional Railroad Accident Preparedness and Immediate Response Fund. The governor had a proposal, and the Senate rejected. The Assembly adopted. Senator Laura.
Mr. Chair, I move the Assembly version.
All right, we have a motion for the Assembly version. I would imagine Ms. Bosler is smiling. And the vote is 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. We're going to hold on page 3 temporarily. Moving to page 5. This is the initiative's workload.
Mr. Chair, I once again move the Assembly version.
All right, the Assembly version adopts the governor's proposal. Ms. Bosler is smiling. The vote on page 5. Three zero. Assembly.
I'm going to abstain from that one.
All right, 2-0. Page 9 is our next item. And this is position authority for the California Hub for Energy Efficiency Financing. Assemblywoman Weber.
Move the Senate version.
Okay, so the Senate version rejects 2 positions. Ms. Bosler?
We understand that this is being deferred to a later trailer bill related to the Public Utilities Commission and will be addressed there.
All right, Senate version, page 9. 2-1. 2-1. Page 11 is a conference compromise. Go right ahead.
Helen Kirstein with the Legislative Analyst's Office. We understand that the compromise is to provide funding for the positions on a limited term basis and to spread the costs of the proposal to all the releases for Breeze.
Move the compromise.
We have a motion for the compromise as described. 2-1.
We're supportive of the compromise with the limited term funding for permanent positions.
That's part of the compromise, correct. 2-1. Page 13 of the Department of Housing and Community Development is farm worker housing. Again, we have a compromise.
Mr. Chair, move the compromise.
Thank you, Senator Lara. The compromise is just about the Assembly proposal with the change that the Napa County Farm Worker Housing Centers would be $225,000 as proposed by the Senate as opposed to the $250,000 in the original Assembly proposal. Otherwise, it is the Assembly's proposal. Ms. Bosler?
We just have concerns about commitment of additional general fund resources above the May revision funding level.
Thank you. So the vote will be 2-1 and 2-1. Page 15 is the seismic safety retrofit program, and we're going to keep that on hold for a little bit. Moving to page 17
Is this the one that deals with the boats?
is surplus property inventory.
Okay.
And we have a compromise here. Ms. Bosler, I think you're a part of it.
We'll have my colleague walk through the compromise, but we
Thank
are
you.
supportive of the compromise.
Appreciate it.
Andrea Sharfer, Department of Finance. The trailer bill language, as proposed, would allow for a legislative notification after a local agency or nonprofit affordable housing sponsor informs the Department of General Services that they do not have an interest in the property. So it would provide an interim report once those two steps have taken place.
Okay. Thank you. So this is the Senate proposal with further modifications to the trailer bill language.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for the explanation. Vote on the Senate side is 2-1? 3-0. All right, 3-0, 3-0. We like that.
This is the,
23 is under the Department of Veteran Affairs, County Subvention. And I think this one's
this is
still.
assembly, yeah. Move the assembly proposal.
All right, we do have a motion for the
Concur.
Assembly. We have a concurrence for Senator Lara, and that'll be 3-0, 3-0.
Mr. Chairman, I thank my colleagues on that particular issue. I'm very familiar with it, and it's a small amount, but it goes a long ways with our veterans, so thank you.
I'm glad we all stand together on that. We have a compromise on page 24, and this deals with the veterans' claims backlog. And I think we're all in agreement on this. I'm going to ask Department of Finance to walk us through the compromise.
John Fitzpatrick, Department of Finance. Funding and position authority for the strike teams is set to expire at the end of budget year. The compromise would extend position authority indefinitely. However, at this point, the funding would, absent an extension next year, expire at the end of 15-16.
And colleagues, without objection, I'm just going to suggest that we tombstone this as the Fitzpatrick compromise. And the vote on that will be 3-0. 3-0. Mr. Fitzpatrick, you score. Senate's okay?
We'll move the Senate version.
All right, we do have a Senate motion on page 26, 3-0, 3-0. And that completes, with two exceptions. State Administration, we're holding pages 3 and 15 for now.
Okay, here's some. do 26 technical corrections.
I have to correct myself. There was a supplemental page in State Administration. This is something near and dear to all of our hearts, the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. We have had intermittent funding for this commission. We did appropriate $500,000 in the Budget Act of 2013. They have watched their dollars very cautiously. I'm told they're still holding $85,000, but it's running out very quickly, and they're down to just minimal staff. So this proposal would recommend providing a one-time $615,000 general fund to keep this commission operating. And I do see that this recommendation here is $615,000 general fund one time, but I want to just suggest to all of us that it surprises me, I'm sure it surprises all of us, that at a time when we're appropriately focused on restoring subsidized childcare, that we're dealing with the issue of pay disparity based on gender, that we recognize as we debate increasing the minimum wage, 60% of minimum wage earners in the state are women, a lot of women and girl and family issues, and we keep this poor commission just dangling out there. And so we have not resolved the funding issue for them, but at this point, they're on life support, and so this is the recommendation for $615,000.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the conference compromise.
All right. So we do have a motion for this $615,000 augmentation. I understand that the administration is not proposing this. Ms.
Yes,
Bosler, and then Assemblywoman Melendez.
Yeah, during the recession, there were many boards and commissions that were reduced considerably, including the Commission on the Status of Women. That focus was needed at that time because we needed to focus on supporting our core programs, our core services that are required by statutes. And so we are also continue, though, to be committed to not putting money back in things that we may have to cut again. So I think that overall, the entire budget package, we're concerned about sustaining the long-term balance of the state's general fund and not committing the state to things that are not a current requirement of state statute.
First, Assemblywoman Melendez, you wanted to comment?
Thank you.
Please.
There are many, many things within this budget that are deserving of $615,000 for a study, this notwithstanding, but this is not a conference item. This is being added on. Do we have any indication of what this money is going for other than just to the organization? Because there are so many organizations out there that also, it goes hand in hand with the study of women's issues and children's issues. It's not just this particular organization. So may I ask if we know what it's for?
Certainly. First of all, it's a commission.
It's a commission.
And it's not for a study. It's just for the operations of it. I think there are 2 staff. Mr. Cisney, do you have anything about this? No, sorry. Okay. So it's operating on a very fine budget. And I recognize we did eliminate many, many commissions when we had to tighten our belt a few years ago, and we're not suggesting we revisit all of those commissions that we cut. This commission has been kept on life support in recent years, and the reason it's still alive and funded today, because I think the Assembly came to its rescue a couple years ago, and we did fund $500,000 in the 13 budget. But they're at the end of their rope right now, and I don't know that we have a collective decision that we're going to see. We want to see the commission on the status of women sunset, and so that's what this proposal's for. There is a motion for it.
Let me just simply say, I think, as you pointed out, this The proposal may have been an oversight because it's been an issue among the women elected officials here in the Capitol for at least as long as I've been here, that this commission deserves to be funded adequately because it represents over 50% of the population of California and the issues that affect women. And so obviously the commission was formed at a time when there was a great concern and the issues of inequity and not only among women, but also among girls. And so that's what the commission does. It's not funding a study, but it basically continues to deal with the issues and bring forth recommendations and a host of things. And it's a statewide commission, so it's not something we just thought up yesterday. It does exist, and it's been limping along. The Assembly funded it because of our commitment to the commission at a time when we were down in resources. And so I understand the administration's concern that you hate to start funding things that you may have to cut again. But this is not something that is asking for the growth as we do when you fund programs that continue to grow and people add things to it and populations grow. And so you like put things in a school and it continues to grow. And you have to fund it and then you have to eliminate an awful lot of people. But it would be unfortunate if we didn't fund it. It would be similar to basically starving yourself and having no money, and all of a sudden you get some money and you fear you can't feed yourself because you may have to starve again tomorrow. I mean, I think you take advantage of the opportunity and eat at this point, and that's what we're talking about. In other words, times have gotten better. We used to fund this commission. We should fund it again because the work it does, no one doubts that the quality of the work that's been done by this commission has been beneficial to the state of California. And as long as we continue to experience, obviously, inequities in terms of gender inequities in curriculum and jobs and opportunities and a host of things, this commission will be needed in the state of California. So it represents over 50% of the population. It's a minor investment in a commission and one that obviously we found the need for. We've never eliminated. So I would suggest that we, in these better times, at least fund it for this coming year.
I would not attempt to improve upon that, Assemblywoman. Perfectly stated. So we do have the motion before us, 2-0 on the Senate side and 2-1 on the Assembly side. Thank you. So now I can keep my word. We have completed with the open items notwithstanding state administration. Colleagues, we are moving on to higher education. Okay.